just going to be using this new stamp set called Tune In. It's got the most gorgeous retro TV. It's so cute. You're going to love it. Stay tuned because I'm going to make an awesome page with it. Something like that.
So now I've stamped this sort of TV outline on some pattern papers and on some cardstock because I wasn't quite sure which ones I'll end up using for the layout. So now I'm going to pop these through. I've got a die cut here that sort of gives that TV outline, and I have cut that out using my die cutting machine, and I'm just popping that out there. So you've got this really cool outline of the TV, nice even cut, saves lots of fussy cutting. So I've gone through and I'm going to do this with each of the TVs that I've got there, as well as I'm now sort of using the inside, sort of the screen piece of the die cut, and I'm going to cut around my photos, and I'm just going to be sticking them on top just like that. So I am just going to go ahead and do quite a few of these off screen, and now we have them here. So the next little part that sort of finishes these TVs off is the antenna. So I'm just going to stamp a whole lot of these on the cardstock. It's just some white cardstock, 12 by 12, and then I'm going to put these through the die cutting machine as well. So last time I used these, I actually coloured it in first, the same with the TV, but this time around I have just gone ahead and am doing that die cutting process before I do the colouring, because I'm not quite sure how this is all going to come together. So part of doing this process video is the use of this Tune In photopolymer stamp set and the thin cuts on a layout. So I've made heaps of cards, and I'll show a quick screenshot of some of those at the end using this gorgeous and fun collection, but I just wanted to see how these would come together using them on a layout. So you can see I've got these 3 photos here. These are all photos at the beach house where I was staying. We sort of had a king's birthday, so in New Zealand we have Monday off, the first Monday of June, and we had a 3-day weekend, so some friends, Julie, Kim and I came together to do some crafting and ended up having my husband come and join us, which is a bit of a long story. So I'll save that for another page another time when we've got a few more answers as to what's going on, and just this nice weekend at the beach. Now I have to give credits to Kim. At the start of this video I kept her voiceover in. She was kind of mocking me, so as retaliation I have kept that in at the start. So now I'm choosing the papers that I'm going to pop into the background, and I've decided just to use a really classic design with sort of a band across the middle of the layout, and these are where the TVs are going to sit with the photos that I have put through that die cut machine. And I'm going to add sort of a strip behind there as well, so it's not just this one cool funky strip of pattern paper. Now the papers that I'm using are called Dandy Designs. They are a 12 by 12 designer series paper, and when I first started using this Tune In stamp set, I was sort of a bit stuck on what to do and where to go next with the backgrounds and things for the cards, and I sort of went through my package of paper that I brought away with me for this crafting weekend, and I was like, oh, here's the perfect collection, and that's where the Dandy Designs came in. I just love the retro look and feel of a lot of these papers, and the colours are just gorgeous, and so it just all came together beautifully. The wee bits that I'm arranging here are die cuts that I had die cut for some of the cards that I was making, and I thought actually they'll work okay on the page too. So not only do you have the TV shapes and things like that, but you've also got some other sort of news flashy sort of zigzags and stuff like that that you can cut out with the TVs and the bits and pieces, all that kind of old school media perhaps as a way to describe it. So now I'm just going to stick all of this down together. I have those two strips are just 1.5 inches, and I think the retro flowers was a 5-inch strip. So I'm just going to put that slightly to the top of the layout, not halfway down exactly. So no precision there, but yeah, placed accordingly. And I am just wrinkling up the edges, which is something I do in standard when I am scrapbooking. So going to do that, and then I decide I actually need some pen borders along these pieces of paper. When I was making the cards, I decided that I really needed the border outline. I did some with and some without, and after playing around with them, it just needed that nice border, and it just helped set the scene or put that all together. So I'm just going to stick these all down, and I will leave some background music with you while I get that underway. So now I'm going to add the antenna, and I had die cut these out earlier as you saw. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use a grey alcohol marker, and I'm just going to colour these in. So I am using the light slate grey, I think it is, on these to start with, and then I'm going to use the darker one just to add a little bit of dimension into the corners and into the edges before I stick these down at the top of each of the TVs. So you can see I'm just sort of dotting in a little bit on the top, little bobbly bits, and in the right hand side of the base pieces, and then I'm going back over with the light just to make sure they've all blended nicely together. So now I've stuck down a few of those other die cuts that I had cut out for the card making earlier, and I'm now going to use another of the alcohol markers just to colour in this sort of TV outline, and this is going to be my journaling box. So I'm using the light colour to go right round the edges, and I will link the colour below. I'm not exactly certain which colour I chose. It is one of the in colours for this year. And next year as well with Stampin Up. So I'm just going around the outside edges, just colouring in this outline of the TV. I'm leaving the centre white because that's where I'm going to add the journaling for the story. So just trying not to overlap too much and to not leave too many sort of lines. These blender pens work really nicely in that once it's done, it's sort of got that hand done effect, but without it being looking like a child used some felt pens to colour it in. So once I've done this outline edge with the light colour, I'm going to use the dark to go over the feet, and I'm going to use that dark as a border inside the screen line. Just it helps give that little bit of depth in there again, as well as the lines sort of where the speakers pieces are, before I'm going to go over it again with that lighter pen in some of those places, just to make sure it's blended nicely. Now that the journaling's all done and stuck down, it's time to think of my title. So I'm going to use this sort of mini alpha die here. It's quite cool in that the plate comes with a whole lot of the letters, including doubles of the vowels, and I've put this through my die cut machine. I've done it through twice using, I think this is a close to my heart Lagoon patterned Lagoon cardstock, and just popping some of these out. And I am going to stick the title, I sort of play around with a few different placements for it before I settle on putting it up the top right, and I end up outlining it with some white gel pen as well. It just felt like it wasn't quite finished at that stage, and you'll see that all coming together over the next wee bit before I come on and add a few more words. The outlining of the letters with this white pen just seemed to help rest it into the page a lot nicer. It could have done it without it, but it just added another finished dimension to it. So now I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to add a few more of the stamps from the Tune In set. I'm going to use Stay Tuned for an important message up the top there, and that sort of relates to the journaling that I'm adding down the bottom. And then I'm going to add in Newsflash just above where I do that journaling. So I've used the Memento black ink there just to finish those areas off before I'm going to add a few more glitters and sparkles. So this was in the clearance section, just like the paper was when I purchased it, and the colours just seem to go nicely with what I have got here. So I hope that you have enjoyed seeing how this tune-in stamp set and die cuts can be used in a scrapbook layout and not just the cards. So I'll leave you there, and you'll see some pictures of the cards coming up, as well as perhaps a close-up of the layout towards the end. Thanks for watching.